Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Lighthouse Sessions. Today, I'm excited. I have my new friend, Brooke Dukes, with me. Brooke, why don't you introduce yourself and tell the audience a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Thank you for having me, Jeff. As you said, my name is Brooke, and I run a structural leadership firm. So what we specialize in is small and mid-sized businesses supporting founders and CEOs in, unsticking themselves, so making them not the bottleneck. Because what I have found in over 25 years in consulting, that was one of the largest problems that I saw in companies, whether they were $4 billion company or $1 million company, was that founder bottleneck. And it goes undiagnosed most often. So what we've done is we've taken everything that I learned with some of the large billion-dollar companies and the 25 years experience and put it into packaging that small and mid-sized businesses, leaders of those can afford, so that we can help them to diagnose what's really happening in their company.
I love it. Now, I'm going to pull apart a couple of definitions, and then we're going to get into the meat of it. When you define or describe a small and medium-sized business, what sort of ranges are we looking at? Team size or revenue size?
Yeah, so we're looking at minimum $1 million revenue, 6 people, up to, I would say our sweet spots about 200 million. Again, in my previous firm, I was a co-founder of a consulting firm. It was only large companies. So we did probably 500 million and above only. So companies like Quicken Loans, things like that. So now we're taking it down a bit, but I would say the biggest thing is you must have a team. Typically it's $1 million in revenue.
I love that clarity. And I think I'm fascinated. You and I are going to have some more conversations on this. I love looking at the survival rates and how businesses climb from 1 million to 10 million to 100 million. And the drop-off curve is huge. I think it goes something like 1% or 2% make it to 1 million, 0.01% make it to 10 million.
Yeah. And that so much so after COVID as well. I mean, those numbers really got dismal after COVID.
It's like this wasteland of business corpses lying around. So let's talk about the owner bottleneck, because I'm going to be blunt. I don't think most people wake up and go, I'm a bottleneck. But what are they complaining to them? What are they saying to themselves when really they are the bottleneck? They're starting to suspect it, but they're getting ready to say, oh my God, I need to call Brooke. What's going through their head?
Well, I think maybe I'll tell you my story on what really hit with this. And as I mentioned, I was the co-founder of a consulting firm for 16 years. And the co-founder was the CEO, and he was constantly pivoting. So, and what you and I talked about this before, we find that with a lot of entrepreneurs, you get bored, right? You started the business because you wanted something exciting and all of that. He'd change direction, make promises that he couldn't keep. And what I was the firefighter of the company. I would just go around putting out all the fires, right? And I thought that hard work and, standards and leadership, like I really looked at it as, man, I'm doing an amazing job here. Like I am killing it. And, I had the knowledge, I had psychology, behavioral science, NLP, and yet like, okay, I feel like I'm doing good things here. But as the years went on, I'm like, we're not getting anywhere. We're making 10 steps forward and maybe 5 back, or maybe 4, it was this constant feast or famine. And when it really hit me that this is not a sustainable model, because what I recognized was I was unconsciously sabotaging the company, because my bandwidth had become the company's growth ceiling. Like I really didn't want us to grow past a certain point because I knew I couldn't handle it. And when that really hit home is I gave myself COVID and shingles at the same time.
Oh
My
my
hair
God.
started falling out. Oh yeah. My relationships were deteriorating. I was hospitalized. And this was really the turning point for me. Right? The moment that I recognized structure itself, like that was the problem. It wasn't me. It wasn't our team. We didn't have a structure. We didn't have a system. It wasn't a people problem. And that's the thing I get a lot of times when founders, and going back to your question, some of the things they find is they'll think to themselves, I think I need to hire new people, or maybe I just need to be trained. Maybe it's leadership. Maybe we need leadership development. I mean, they throw some pretty costly solutions at the problem and not recognizing that it's not. It's the system that was there where the founder, what made you successful now at, $1 million, 5, 10 is also what's killing the company. Because what made you successful, if you think about a founder being the hub of a wheel, right? And you have all these spokes. When you are starting out, everything needs to funnel back to that hub. You have the intellectual property, you have the vision, you have the knowledge, you can get it done faster. It makes sense. It's how you grew it. That's also the thing, to your point at the beginning, that is killing companies. I think you had said, people that they made it to, 9, 10, 12 million 3 times and failed ever. This is the reason, because they don't have a system that helps them with how are decisions made? Who owns the decision? What are the priorities? What does my role look like now that we've gotten to this stage? Because it's a very different role. You go from being in the weeds in every single decision, you now need to work on the strategic, right? The big deals, the operation, what's going to move the company forward, that only you as the founder can answer those questions. But like me, you end up being a firefighter. Everything's urgent. So that was a very long answer to your problem, but that's why we built the solutions that we built, because it's a very costly problem. It typically doesn't hit the P&L. And what starts happening also is founders start opening up decisions they already finalized because they stop trusting themselves. They stop
revisiting.
Yeah, they're revisiting it. And every time a founder does that, it costs $2,000 to $5,000 in team costs, because then you're restarting, you're stalling, and that does not even touch what it's costing you in your team not trusting. Decisions are final. That's why they bring everything back to you, because you're reopening things. Even though you delegate, it's still coming back because you didn't tell them what they had authority to actually make a decision on. So those are the things that I believe are killing small and mid-sized businesses, and why the stats that you gave are what they are.
And I think, it's fascinating because I once had the pleasure of working with a CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company, and I was amazed by how little he actually did. He was just the conductor, and, he had his executive assistant, and God help you if you tried to sneak past her desk, she would tackle you. And yet a lot of founders, and a friend of mine used to say, new levels, new devils. And I think, as people grow, they hit their ceiling of what they're comfortable letting go of. And I think a lot of people just don't know how to delegate. We all start businesses because we're excited about something, we're good at something, and then at some point we're in the way. And I think that's where you are coming in and saying, okay, we got to fix this, because it's rarely a people problem. It's almost always a system problem.
Right.
So you talk about the leadership operating system. So what does that look like on your end? Because I think that's the missing ingredient I see in a lot of cases.
Yeah. So for us, I do one-on-one executive coaching. So that's one way you can get it done. We take about 3 clients at a time because it is very time consuming. The thing that we built that we're able to get out to the masses is what's called Success by Design. And it's a leadership operating system capsule. And it's weekly calls. We have a whole, my sweet spot is integration. So taking a very complex problem, breaking it down, having a solution, but then that's a lot of people can do that, right? It's actually integrating it. How does it stick? Like there's there's behavioral science behind that. And that's what we really do well. And so the 4 things that we really address that I believe are the biggest issues within this bottleneck problem is 1, decisions. Is there a decision system? Because to your point, well, I delegated, but did you really? You're delegating tasks. You're not delegating authority. So that's one of the first things that we tackle. Within 30 days, the program has already paid for itself the first 6 months because we are showing you exactly how many decisions hit your desk. What are they? We give you 3 questions to really understand how to create that decision system, that delegation system. Here's what you can, in your role, here's what you can decide on. Here's what needs to be escalated up. No exceptions. We also do, because as I had talked about earlier, when you start opening up decisions, I learned this we had a colleague of mine in my past company who worked directly with Jeff Bezos. Whatever you think about him, I'm not here it is what it is. He does have a successful company. I think we can all agree upon that. The rest of it, I don't want to get into. But one of his big things is 80% and out the door, meaning it is diminishing returns. You taking it from that 80 to 100%. So you really need to look at what decisions are you reopening and why? Because it's rarely ever new information. It's typically fear. You have now your bandwidth you're getting overwhelmed. You're getting burned out. Everything's coming back to you. You're questioning yourself. Is this even really what I want? Oh my God, how are we going to grow this? I'm already so all of that starts getting that fear coming in, and you start reopening decisions that have already been made, which costs you $2,000 to $5,000 each decision. So we look at how many of those are you doing? Well, a few a week at minimum, typically, right? And then we really look at the priorities. What is it that needs to be the priority so that you can stop being the firefighter of your business and start being the actual founder? Because what your colleague did is 100% right. What looks like, oh, I'm barely working. No, they've just mastered. I know where my lane is. I know where my sweet spot is. And that's when it's going to drive this company forward, not me working myself to death, answering every question that crosses my path. Yeah. And then we look at what does that leadership role look like for you in your company. And so that is Success by Design. It is amazing, I have to say. It's 25 years of intellectual property we've put into this. We have in it is an AI component. So you have weekly calls that I facilitate personally with your peers who are experiencing the same thing. We'll have learnings, but we also have hot seat. We have coaching right there. We're talking real world problems. What are you dealing with right now? And let's help you solve that in this moment. And then on a daily basis, you have the AI component we call Oz, which you go in and you can ask questions. And every week you will get it's not a ranking, but you will see how well you're doing on what we're teaching, and you will get a graph and you will get feedback. So ROI is there, and we're showing you, because so many times people, they're learning new things, but they're not integrating any of it. So That's really, and then the executive coaching comes in for those leaders that are like, okay, I need some one-on-one, or we have consulting services for those leaders that say, I want this throughout my entire company. That again is on a smaller scale. We interview for those. So again, that's a very long answer to your question, but hopefully I answered that.
It was an excellent answer to the question, and it takes what it takes. I'm fascinated. I meet a lot of founders who think they're alone, and that's probably the biggest thing I hear is we're all alone. We don't have anyone to turn to, because you can't tell your spouse what's going on. You definitely can't talk to your clients or employees. I think it's valuable just having that community, and also I think the integration layer is so often missed. It's, I can't tell you how many courses I've taken or things I've been to, and then you get back to work and you're like, I don't actually know what to do with this. It was highly productive, but what's the next step?
Yeah. And that's the big part of because that's how our brain is set up. Our brain, because our subconscious mind, what safety means to our subconscious mind is no change, whether it's good or bad. Yep. So we have to kind of trick our subconscious by making small steps every day to build the habit of what you're learning. And then you let the habit get the results, because that's the way, because we call it the evolution of growth. Regardless of what you're trying to change, whether even if it's, I want to brush my teeth 2 times a day versus 1. I mean, something that trivial, or I want to integrate this leadership operating system, like whatever it is, you're going to go through this evolution of growth. And at the beginning, you're unconsciously incompetent. You're excited. Like you said, you join a program, you're like, hell yes, I got this. I'm going to do it. I can see myself at the end. This is amazing. Well, then the first little hiccup, which normally happens in the first couple weeks, right? Then the doubt starts creeping in. You are now consciously incompetent. You know exactly what you don't know. You know how hard it's going to get there. And that's where a lot of people quit, and they go back to what they've always been doing, because we are geared towards to move away from pain and towards pleasure. This doesn't feel good. I'm going back there because at least it's what I know. We may move people to that conscious competency where you're determined now, I'm going to integrate this. I've got it. It's not the easiest thing, but you've made the decision. And the ultimate goal is to get to that accomplishment where you're unconsciously competent. It's kind of like when, I'm sure everyone listening has driven their car and pulled into the driveway and thought, how in the hell did I get here? Without substances. I'm talking about totally. Well, that's because you are an unconsciously competent driver. When you're driving home from work, say, and you're thinking about what you're going to have for dinner, what you're going to do, your conscious mind is occupied. Your subconscious mind takes over and drives you home. That's the goal. But you don't do that by too high of a gradient. So that's what we have built this upon, is that science, so that it's not too painful, but you get massive results from month 1.
I love that. And for what it's worth, I spend a lot of time obsessing over why people will stay stuck, but their stuckness is comfortable and familiar. And it's like, ooh, who do I have to become to get unstuck? And it's fascinating that people will, total tangent, but I look at the world of addiction, and getting that next hit overpowers the survival instinct, because it's about the next hit and feeling good and feeling familiar, rather than going for treatment in that unfamiliar. And genuinely, I believe, and I'd love your thoughts on this, I think a lot of entrepreneurs are genuinely addicted to the dopamine rush. So we light fires to swoop in and fight them. And it's like, just take my matches away and I'm way less dangerous.
Yeah. Well, I love that. 2 things. One was with the addiction. What we miss with that is because you don't start off, I wouldn't imagine, like shooting heroin every day, right? It's a gradual. So what happened was your subconscious mind now sees that drug as survival.
Mm-hmm.
You've passed that. So that's what makes it so difficult is you're always sabotaging yourself with that, because it looks at that. Quitting then becomes, that's where is unsafe, because that's the change. So moving then to the entrepreneurs, I completely agree with you. And I can speak from myself. This is my fourth business, and I have a very visionary ADD leader. My team, I mean, I really believe I had to create success by design for me, because I had to hold myself accountable to not constantly pivot it, because it is fun. And here's the other thing, it feeds that. I truly believe most entrepreneurs, most humans, one of our core wounds is not feeling worthy. So that not feeling valuable. Well, when we get those dopamine hits, when people rely on us, when we're the savior, when we're putting out the fires, it makes us feel good. It did me. It does me. We did it because we want to help people. It's not just about the excitement, right? We want to feel wanted and worthy and valuable and needed and all of that. So that's why jumping out of that, right? Jumping off that wheel, the hamster wheel, is difficult, because it does feel good, even though, just like drug addiction, to your point, even though it's not getting us the result we want, it can be tough. So that's why a structure, so that you can gradually wean yourself off and find those dopamine hits in other ways. I'm not saying this is going to stop up. You just don't need the dopamine hits. Who cares? No, I'm going to show you ways to get your dopamine hits in other areas while you're moving your business forward and you're not burning yourself out. Like, that's where the genius lies, in my opinion.
And I think that's the biggest thing, because with burnout, there comes the inevitable shame spiral. And I'm fascinated by the brain of the entrepreneur, because I think we are differently wired. I think there's a lot of, we're high performance engines. We got to keep going. And somebody asked me, what does it take to become an entrepreneur? And I said, there's an element of insanity, because we go forward even when everybody around us says, don't do it, it's not safe. We're like, I'm going to give it a try. And I find that fascinating, that, we can take that beating and we get up and show up for work the next day, whereas most people be like, I'm going to take a beat and just lay here and lick my wounds for a bit.
It's funny. I totally agree. In my earlier career, I was with 3 Fortune 500 companies in a director position in sales. And I feel like salespeople have the same thing. Like, we just have this tenacity. It's kind of like the honey, remember way back in the day, the honey badger videos that would go, I mean, we have that. It's like, you just can't keep us down. And that's truly what makes a fabulous salesperson as well. Like, there's a lot of commonalities in that. And it's just this drive, this ambition. And I look at it, the most successful entrepreneurs I have ever seen were the ones that they're unemployable. I am one of those. I would imagine you are. Like, I am unemployable. There is nothing else I know how to do. Like, this is it. And when you come to that realization, then things start getting easier, because you don't have a plan B. This is it. Like, this is what I'm going to do. So I might as well figure out how to do it in a way that I don't kill myself, from being, having COVID and shingles at the same time. That was not fun.
Yeah, that was your body telling you something. And I think that's a lot of, if I may, and by the way, I fascinated by salespeople because the difference between a good and a great salesperson is their systems.
Yes.
And I think it makes sense for entrepreneurs as well. And by the way, when I first read Traction, I was like, how dare you tell me what to do, Gino? And then I went, wait a minute, he's one of us, and he built this to protect himself. And that made a huge difference in how I saw it, because again, a lot of us, we tend to break perfectly good things and take it apart and say, how do I fix this? I think what you're bringing in is the operating system, so that, for me, the biggest thing, I'll be honest, was I had to recognize that my R&D should never spill out into my daily business. And that was the problem, was I was R&D all the time. And then the business would struggle because trying to explain what we do, what day is it? What time is it? Okay, today we're a publishing company.
Yep. No, I love that you brought up EOS and scaling up and all of that. And back in my previous firm, we worked with a lot of EOS facilitators, and actually Gino, because I'm dating myself, this was back in the 90s. So that was when Traction had just come out and it was the thing, and it's fabulous. Yeah. And those systems build structure around vision and meetings and accountability, which is so needed, but it doesn't build the leadership layer, which is also needed. So many times companies would come to us after they'd installed EOS and be like, but I still have the bottleneck. I'm still have those. Well, they did exactly what they were supposed to do. EOS never claims to solve that. You just think that that's what it is. And now with SBD, we install that layer that tells your team like who has the final say. The system that actually holds, that works in alignment with EOS, so that everyone is getting exactly what they need and the company scales beautifully.
I love the boundaries, because I think that's, one of the challenges. Most of the entrepreneurs I meet, we're problem solvers, and we're like, oh, and by the way, if there's a contest, I think they call them Goldberg machines. They're these ridiculously complicated things that do something mundane like make toast. And it's like, why have one step like put toast in the toaster when we could build a conveyor belt? And, we see these things. And sometimes the world doesn't need the 57-step toast maker. It just needs the toaster. And so I think the step I would take is, now somebody's identified they're the bottleneck. How do they come into your orbit to see if you can help them? Because I think, again, I love EOS, and I believe that there's a next step that most are missing, because I'm sorry, but even in the EOS world, we're still burning the building down while everybody's inside. And then we run around trying to rescue people.
What we have created, and we have a 60-minute free training. So it's a CEO decision reset masterclass, and it will support people in one, determining, is this actually your issue? It may not be, right? There's that. And then it's also tells you exactly what it gives you right at the end of it, something that you can do immediately to help alleviate some of the challenges that you're experiencing. So one will help you. Are you the bottleneck? Here's a quick, easy thing that you can implement right after the masterclass that will help you to stop being the bottleneck. And then it also tells you how you can join Success by Design. So that's at our website, brookemdukes.com. It's right below the main header. You'll see, watch the masterclass, and you can see if this is something for you, if this makes sense for the challenges that you're experiencing.
I love it. Now, I'm going to shortcut this a little bit, because I feel like I meet a lot of founders who have chronic, mysterious health problems that seem to be random, but in hindsight, they're always stress related. Is it fair to say that somebody who is chronically burnt out, overworked, probably needs to take the master course? Is that fair?
Yes. So with this, I would say 100% watch it. It will help you to understand. It will probably give you, I know for me, when I first started looking into this, I felt so relieved because I was that leader that we brought in trainers and leadership development, and we hired new people, we fired people, we'd done so many things. And I'm thinking, is it me? Like, what is going on? I felt relief when I'm like, oh shit, because installing a system is so much easier than all the other things I had done to try to solve this problem that it wasn't solving. So regardless if you put in EOS or not put in EOS, this can be done before, after. It is that leadership layer that's needed for a company to scale, so that a CEO, a founder, or a leader does not become the growth ceiling for that company. When your bandwidth starts to become an issue on whether the company can grow or not, this is 100% your problem. So this masterclass will help you to understand that on a deeper level, how it is affecting you, your employees, every time that you jump in to solve a problem, every time you open up a decision, what it's doing to your employees. It's a very large ripple effect that's happening. And it will also, it's not your fault. Like, you did all the right things. You have a business that's growing. You just need to tweak what you're doing so that it can grow without you needing to be part of every solution.
I think that's fantastic because, first of all, I'm a firm believer. If I acknowledge that every problem is starting with the guy in the mirror, the good news is that every solution starts there as well. So I think this is a moment of hope, because a lot of, it's going to sound terrible, but a lot of entrepreneurs, I think, suffer needlessly because they think, okay, I can't afford this big solution, or, we don't have time to retool the entire factory. And it's like, what if we just look at our decision-making process?
Right. Exactly. And it's easy to talk about. It takes some time to implement, and you're getting wins, you're getting relief, because that's what CEOs, founders, leaders that come to us, they've tried other things. We're not their first call, right? They've tried numerous things and they're frustrated. And so you get immediate relief. And to your point, it can be very lonely at the top, because one, you don't want to necessarily admit that you're struggling. There's that.
Yeah.
You don't even know, and a lot of times, maybe your peer group, they are not entrepreneurs. Maybe they work in corporate. Maybe they're not as successful as you are. Maybe you're the one that everyone comes to for all of the solutions. So now how do you go back to them? So this is a room where you feel heard and you get real world solutions based on things that you're experiencing in that moment.
I love that, Brooke. And I'm going to add, I think a lot of entrepreneurs I've met, I'm obsessed with the Colby score. We tend to be high, quick starts, and giving us a long, slow path is not the right. I used to be that consultant that, we'll train your team and do this and that. Most of them need the simple, quick fixes so that they can find the time to do the bigger things.
Right. Because that is we get a few different, founders. Well, I think we can just do this ourselves. Really? Because if you could, you already would have, because you've already tried other things, or you wouldn't even be watching the masterclass or talking to me. Or, they'll say things, well, I just don't have the time. Well, you will have the time, because this gives you the time. Within the first 2 weeks, you're going to get more time. You can't afford not to make the time to do this for all the various reasons we've talked about in this episode.
All right, you and I are going to have a follow-up conversation, but I want to thank you. So people can go to the website, they can watch the masterclass. You're also on LinkedIn, I believe. Is that correct?
I am on every social media platform at Brooke Dukes. So it makes it very easy. It's brookemdukes.com is our website, and then Brooke Dukes on all social media outlets.
Awesome. Well, Brooke, I want to thank you for taking time and hanging out with me today and talking about the leadership operating system, because I feel this is the missing ingredient. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.